Has the queen got you down? Well, don't lose your head over it. Hello, everyone. Bront, CatHerder here. We're having some fun talking Raid Shadow Legends, and we are here to talk about the event dungeon. So, having had a chance to play with the event dungeon stuff a little bit more over the past day or two, and to be fair, consuming some videos on this as well. Some of these are amalgamations of other ideas as well, things that I've wanted to try, and overall just good strategies. But I have 4 teams for you that should help you at the event dungeon at various levels. I'll show most of them at level 20, and I'll show one of them at level 30. The stats you're going to need at the various levels will be different, and in fact, one of the things I will recommend you do is check out the Hell Hades Stages tool if you're looking for what stats you're going to need for the different floors. Now, the good news is 3 of these teams are not particularly specifically tuned, so they're pretty easy to kind of throw together, and I'll give you the stats for them as well. The endgame team, I'll give you a couple of different options for it. That's going to need specific tuning, and I'll talk about that as well. So let's get into the floor 30 team first. It's very similar to the one I posted earlier. This one is a little bit safer, a little bit better. I said the last one was 100%. There's a little bit of chance you could get resistance. This one does not have that chance. All right. So for stage 30, this team has been 100%, and I don't see a reason that it should ever fail at any point. So what we have here is Yakarl, who is a free-to-get champion through the clan shop. He is worth picking up. He does not have to be booked in this particular team. It does help if he's booked, and in fact, I'll show you a couple of teams where I use him unbooked, but it would be better if he is booked as well. But specifically, we are looking for this Glaciate here because it has a 100% chance against targets with 75% or more turn meter to land an AoE freeze, and it cannot be resisted by anybody who has 75% or more turn meter. The biggest problem that you have is Kaja the Rye is on the team on 30, and if she resists this somehow, which there's always a 3% chance of resisting no matter how much accuracy you have, then she gets a turn, she goes, and she will wreck your entire run because she'll cleanse everybody else, and then everyone else gets their turn, and it's problematic. Plus, she does some turn meter boost. So keeping Kaja controlled is the most important thing in this. So I have him going at about 305 speed. Kaja is 300. I recommend going at least 3 speed higher than Kaja just because if for some reason you get a buff on Yakarl, there is temporal chains, which will slow him down a little bit. So giving him the 305 speed is probably about the minimum I'd look for, is good. And then the accuracy, he doesn't need that 500 accuracy, but I found that without the accuracy, every once in a while he wouldn't land one of the freezes, and it got a little dicey every once in a while. So having the accuracy means that you have less than a 3% chance of the resist, only on a couple of champions that might be kind of slow. And since it's still been 100%, even when one of them has gone, it should be fine. But this means you are 100% going to freeze Kaja, who will 100% ruin your run. And that's very important. And 305 is also a good speed because when he takes a second turn, it means he's still going to be at a good, close to everyone else having a fullish turn meter to have this irresistible again. But we'll talk about the other speeds later that make this significantly faster as well. Now I've got both my newts here, and I've actually sped them up a little bit too. You'll see my slower newt is 265, and my faster newt is 277. The newts can be, honestly, any max HP hitter, although you're going to need at least one triple hitter, so you're getting a Marius or a newt in at least one of these spots. You could also then use an Acresia in the other spot. You could use a Wallmaster in the other spot. Any of the double hitter max HPs will be fine as the second one. You're probably going to want your slowest one to have Soul Reap just to make sure that they do clean up on the boss. You do have a little bit of extra damage in here as well, so you've got a little bit of leeway with getting to 100% of the max HP, but the triple hitters here are very nice. You don't even need decreased defense, at least on the newts. My newts are hitting for near max all the time, and since I've got 120% max HP, I've got a lot more leeway. Plus, Blessed Bash actually decreases the defense every time you hit it. So you get a 6%, actually it's a 9% on the first one, and then 18% on the second hit, and then 27% on the third hit. So by the time you're doing the final hit, you're at the full 30% decreased defense, which makes it a little bit easier as well. Kymar here, there's 2 different tunes with Kymar. My Kaimar is currently the slowest on my team, and that makes this pretty good. That's probably the best tune for this. And he can be slow. He still needs to be 250-ish, maybe 260 is not bad. But he does need to be slower than both newts. If you're going to have a super fast Kaimar, which will probably work, you're going to need to have Kaimar to be faster than your Carl, probably by quite a bit faster. And then what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to probably have him do either A1 or A2 first, and then set a Seal of Magic to happen as the second attack. Otherwise, you just set him this, probably safer to actually prioritize this, but Kaimar will always prioritize that if he can. And then finally, Shamail actually doesn't need gear, but if he has gear, he's going to be doing additional damage. And if you're actually struggling to get the triple hitters, as I was talking beforehand, the fact that this Cow the Horrors hits at some point in time, it can do a lot of damage because it ignores a lot of defense. So you can have him be additional damage that might help you out as well. I would recommend that you put him in Giant Slayer as well, so he probably is going to get at least one Giant Slayer hit, maybe 2 or 3. It would be very helpful. So this is the team. So he keeps the fears off. Carl keeps everybody controlled, and the newts finish everything up. It runs quickly. One of my newts does have relentless gear, and that will only slow it down, but it doesn't break the team, fortunately. You do have to be careful. Honestly, probably the best thing to do here is turn off the Fury of the King, just so he doesn't put any buffs on himself. So let's go run this team, and as I said, it is pretty quick. So your Carl gets the freeze out there. Kaja did get frozen. You'll see she took a turn, so she's not frozen anymore. We get the Blessed Bashes going. We get the fears taken off by Shamail. Kaimar is going to reset us and boost the turn meter. Your Carl takes his turn, freezes everybody again. We get a little bit of hits from Shamail, and then on the end of the third hit there, boom, boss down. This has been 100%. I realize not everyone's going to have 2 newts, or 3 newts even, as it were. So this works very well. If you decide to go for the full lots of max HP hitters, so say you have newts and Mariuses and Acrisias and Wallmasters, you certainly could go for the Carl, newt, Wallmaster, and Acrisia team. You're just going to need to make sure that all of them are fast enough to take a turn, probably before the boss takes a turn, so that none of them get decreased defense, none of them get controlled in some way, shape, or form. Plus, you're not going to have Inquisitor Shamail to keep the freezes off, the fears off as well. So you're going to absolutely need to go before the boss if you decide to go that team. So that is a viable option. I don't have that team set up because I don't have champions that fast. My Marius is not fast enough. Actually, my Marius might be fast enough, but my Acrisia is definitely not fast enough, and I'm pretty sure my Wallmaster is not fast enough either. But that is another viable team, but everyone needs to be higher than 265 speed in order for that to work. Probably 267, 268 would be the minimums. So let's go take a look at some stage 20 teams. We're going to go hop over to my alt. My alt is probably capable of doing 30, but I wanted to give some more accessible teams, and my alt is definitely a much more accessible account. First of all, we've got the super accessible team right here. This was the easiest team to put together. This is the slowest team of the ones I'm going to show on this account, but this works fairly well. Basically, we are going to rely on Geomancer to put the burn up and let the boss kind of kill herself, and then we're going to use your Carl to prevent us from dying too often on some of these ally attacks. We are going to prioritize this Glaciade. Again, I've got him fairly fast and high accuracy. If you can't build the accuracy, that's fine. That means this may occasionally miss. And again, if this is booked, he'll have this on a 4-turn cooldown instead of a 5-turn cooldown. That will make this probably a little bit faster and a little bit better because you'll control the champions a little bit better. I really like Syl for this because Syl is going to help keep you alive, but Syl also has a good chance of dropping stuns as well, so she gives you an additional turn control, which is great. In fact, if you want to kind of play into that a little bit, you can have her open with this, and then she will do this stun afterwards while your Carl still has it on cooldown, so she will kind of integrate it with your Carl a little bit better. That is probably a safer way to go. You have Doom Priest here. You want to turn off this mass possession on Doom Priest. She's there to mostly cleanse the fears off. I don't have her speed tuned for this specifically, but you could certainly tune her to go right after the boss to get those fears done. Otherwise, you're just going to occasionally fall into the fear and not take a turn until she takes a turn and cleanses some of that off. And then finally, I had originally tried this with Godseeker as a secondary healer reviver and found out that Ugo works better, not because we need the decreased defense, although that does help do a little bit of damage, but block buffs is incredibly important because some of the ads here will throw continuous heals and shields and other stuff like that up. So the ability to block most of those, particularly against the bosses, will speed up the run tremendously. Now, you can still probably do it without block buffs. It will just take significantly longer. Now, Ugo isn't specifically the only champion for this. Any champion that does an AoE block buffs will be fine. I think Ugo is the best because Ugo happens to also give you all of the healing, a little bit of a cleanse, and the decreased defense is certainly nice. But you could certainly use an Umbral Enchantress as an option, or anybody that puts up block buffs be very, very good for this team. So let's go run through this quickly. Now, this one takes maybe 2-ish minutes. So, but as you can see here, we got most of the freezes done. We did not get freezes on everybody because he didn't have a 100% chance on champions that didn't have enough turn meter, and apparently we failed on 2 of them. That's annoying, but that's where the block buffs come in, because if you look here, we didn't actually get any heals on us, which is great because you've got the healer Adolin right here, or not Adolin, but so yeah, mostly we are here making sure that we get triggers for things like Brimstone. Definitely helps having Brimstone on a champion. And we're whittling down various other champions, which means eventually once the boss is there, the boss is not going to be able to do enough damage to heal, to get through the healing that we have. Doom Priest definitely keeping us alive, same as Syl. And once we get more burns out there, which Geomancer should do, we'll start chunking away at the boss's health again. So, yep, 1 minute in, and we're about halfway down. So we'll fast forward to the end of this, but as you can see, we have everything under control, and it'll probably take about 2 minutes to get everything done, maybe a little less. Oh, nope, let's not bother cutting out, because there we go. Time at 1:13. Easy peasy, and there's this team. So let's go check out another team very similar to this team, but I found that this actually worked very well as well, especially on stage 20. So let's take a look at a team that might be faster, but you definitely need some of the support to make sure it works well. All right, so we are literally in the exact same team we had earlier, other than the fact that I now have put a damage dealer, an AoE damage dealer specifically, in here as well. Thor is great for this, and my Thor is built exceptionally well. If you don't have one, honestly, any arena nuker that's of reasonable speed will be fine. Doesn't necessarily even need to be this 224 speed, but needs to be able to do a decent amount of AoE damage. It does help if they are a good affinity to be able to hit all of the champions involved in this. So in this particular floor, they are magic and force. At the top floor, they are force and spirit. So you're going to be looking for ideally a force champion on this floor or a magic nuker champion on floor 30 if you decide you want to try this on 30. Overall, we're basically, the idea of this is to use somebody to clear most of the ads and just do some damage and speed along Geomancer doing damage. And then Syl here keeps everyone alive. Doom Priest helps keep everyone alive, keeps the phrase off. And now you get the decreased defense actually having some significantly more meaning, in addition to the block debuffs of Ugo, making Ugo perfect for this particular team. Now, this team's going to run a lot faster, but that's because my Thor is absolutely built well. So this will run on 20 very easily. And I should have had Syl do her stun on the first turn. We didn't, but that's fine. As you see, we killed off the healer and we killed off Juliana. We do have to contend with the shields from Romero, but nothing particularly exciting. Geomancer there, this is one of the reasons I don't like turning off his A2 in this. He doesn't need it as much, but his A2 does help get rid of some buffs like that. And then next time Thor gets a turn, which hopefully should be pretty soon, I think this should be over. Nope, not quite. But again, nice, easy, pretty quick. Probably just need to turn Sills A2 back on for this team. Runs on stage 20. Let's go check out stage 25 with this team because I think this team should be okay on stage 25 as well. So I tried this on stage 25 and it turns out it does not work particularly well as constructed. So you're certainly going to need to speed everyone up. You'll probably need some way to cleanse better than just Doom Priest, particularly because once Geo bites the dust, this team becomes very, very difficult and you're going to need some much better speed than what I have built on this team. So as constructed, this team is great on 20, not so great on 25. So but it's certainly an option for players that want to tweak this out a bit and give it a try. Let's go take a look at the other team that I have that works on 20, and we can even try that one on 25 as well. All right, so we have this one on 20 here, and this one is interesting because most people are not going to have an Elytrean Blade Master because he is a limited edition champion you could only get. Blade Master is great because he has this block debuffs for 2 turns and a cleanse that cannot be removed if there's a boss present. So this is a irresistible, unstrippable block debuffs, which makes him very good, and you want to have him go first if you can, which is why I've got him at that 298 speed. Other than that, I've got Drang here. Drang has an irresistible burn, so that is great. Unfortunately, he is possibly weak affinity to some champions on some of the floors, so he could possibly miss the burn occasionally, but he should get at least 3 burns out there, which is great. He also ignites the burn on the A1, and he brings an HP balance here that's actually a really good heal on this A3, so he's very, very helpful as well. We've got Yakarl back into this team here for the control, and then we've got Artak. This could be anybody who activates burns. Artak is very nice. Artak is built for enough accuracy and speed on the floor 20. He's going to struggle a little bit on floor 25 because he doesn't quite have enough accuracy to land this, and on floor 30, he definitely doesn't have enough accuracy to land burns. So that's why I thought Drang would be particularly good in this team. You can use any burner you have, however, and particularly if you have a burner like a CCF, for example, where you can also ignite with the same champion, that's nice. Again, Artak is great if I built him with more accuracy, but I use him in my Ice Golem team, so I didn't want to rebuild him too much. And then finally, we have Kymar here. Because my Kymar is the fastest, I have him I actually want him to do that first so that he saves this for another control. So he will lead off with his A1 attack. Then he will do his cooldown reset after everyone goes and he gets a chance to do the second turn. Then he will come back and do a sleep again, which will be after Yakarl gets the Glaciate off twice. So you do, however, need him to be the fastest champion for him to go this, or you need him to be the slowest champion and just have the Seal of Magic be his #1 priority in the first place. Finally, if you don't have a Blade Master, the other option for this is you can either use Doom Priest sped tuned to be going right after the boss, or you can use somebody in high resistance. Mithrala is actually really good because Mithrala can be high accuracy and high resistance, and then she can do the cleanse as well. The problem with some of these cleansers you're going to have is if they have too many buffs, you're going to find yourself forcing the Queen of Hearts to go more often, and that can certainly make this team a little bit harder to down. So let's save this and give this a try. And it's not the fastest, it's not the slowest, it's right in the middle, but it's very safe because we've got a bunch of champions that are tanky, ready to heal, a decent amount of healing, and we've got all of the debuffs generally under control on our team here. So overall, we are activating burns, getting freezes out there, getting burns out repeatedly, and then just whittling down everybody on the team as we go. And then we've got, of course, Yakarl bringing a bunch of freezes as well, which definitely helps control the team. Getting off those burns, even Drang's A1 is definitely super helpful. Artak igniting some burns as well. Get more burns out there. That's great. And you do want to make sure whoever's going to be landing your burns is going to be faster than whoever's activating your burns. So we should have, ideally, we should have Drang going before Artak does. Now, this took a little while, but we've managed to whittle down the boss to just the boss. So at this point in time, the boss has not been doing enough damage to really make anybody worry about dying on this build. So here we should just be soloing down the boss. So I will fast forward to the end of this once we've killed the boss. Alrighty, so the boss is down. Took us 2 minutes, but very safe. No one was even close to dying at any point in time. This should work on stage 25 as well, although speeds are going to need to be a little bit higher. The accuracy may need to be a little bit higher. It is certainly going to be difficult. If you don't have a Kymar, Kymar definitely helps because there's additional control in addition to that reset. But if you don't have a Kymar, you can use a Renegade. Renegade is not going to reset your Carl. Your Carl's definitely going to need to be booked, and you're still going to have a one-turn cooldown. But a Renegade would at least reset your Drang and your Artek, who would then get burns and activated and burns again back very quickly. Plus, Blade Master would get his block debuffs up very quickly again as well. And that will certainly help make this team more accessible, as it were, if you don't have a Kymar, for example. But there you go. There are a couple of different teams you can use on the event dungeon, or at least the theories of some of these teams. Again, if you need to know the exact speeds to set your cleansing champion, you need to know what kind of resistances you need, check out the Hell Hades Stages tool. I will provide a link to that down below. I'll pin it in the comments somewhere. Do check that out as well. It is very, very useful for finding out what you need as far as the stats are concerned. So if you don't have a Blade Master and you have a Cleanser and you want to go the Cleanser route instead, you're going to want the speed of the champion to be just below where the Queen goes. So if the Queen is, let's say, 210 speed on stage 20, I don't think that's right, but if it is, you're going to want your champion to be like 209 or 208. And do keep in mind that if you have an aura, like Blade Master has a dungeon aura, that is going to mess with your speeds as well. So make sure you set it so that your speed is going to be in the right section, whatever the aura happens to be. So hopefully that helps you out. Hopefully you learned something from this, and hopefully you can start farming this dungeon, because I think it is well worth farming. As far as what's actually worth keeping in this dungeon here, Pinpoint is absolutely worth keeping. And in fact, good and okay 5-star pieces, especially if you're still keeping mostly 6-star, might be good until you get a lot of the actual gear. It is definitely difficult to get regular gear. You will find you get more Pinpoint accessories than you do actual gear. And honestly, it's got no point, at least on my main account, and we're probably closing into that on my alt as well, where I'm not going to be keeping spider rings and spider amulets, because I just would rather have all of these 9-piece or special accessories, because the extra bonuses from those accessories trump the few extra stats I get from a ring and an amulet. So meanwhile, crit damage is actually pretty decent. That has some endgame applicability. For early game people, accuracy is very good. Critical rate can be helpful early on in building champions, probably not going to be an endgame viable thing. Eventually you want to move away from using crit rate, but it's an option if you're struggling early game. Again, accuracy can be good. Crit damage is very good, but definitely a little more late game. But honestly, even for an early champion, an early account, getting Pinpoint will help your account a ton. Because not only farming this dungeon will get you some of the accessories that you might struggle with Spider to get otherwise, but it gives you extra accuracy and it gives you extra speed, which is the lifeblood of early game accounts. It is very difficult to get. That is why accuracy is so important. That is why the perception set is super important as well. So again, hopefully this helps you all. Appreciate it. Good luck farming this dungeon. I think it's been kind of fun figuring some stuff out. Keep hanging around for more helpful tips like this and helpful videos. Hit that like button and hit that subscribe button. I really appreciate it. It helps support the channel. I will see you guys later. And until next video, I'm Bront CatHerder.